weekly show with David J. Maloney. This week, David talks to actor and director Philip Barantini. And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome to everyone at home, and I would normally say our studio audience to the weekly show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. I say normally because we'd usually shoot the show before a small studio audience at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, but we are still shooting our last few shows from home due to coronavirus protocols. We hope to gain clearance to get back to our live-to-tape shows real soon. So, doctors have advised Queen Elizabeth II to rest for at least 2 weeks. The Queen can do light desk-based duties, but she will have to take a break from her full-time job as a drywall subcontractor. And Chicago Blackhawks president and general manager Stan Bowman has resigned over his poor handling of sexual assault allegations against a former video coach by a player initially known only as John Doe. For weeks, the identity of John Doe was concealed, but we all knew he wasn't the team's enforcer. Oh, and did you hear this? Jacksonville Jaguars coach Urban Meyer has apologized for grinding with a young woman at a Columbus, Ohio bar while his team flew back to Florida. Meyer was assessed 2 penalties on the play, one for encroachment and the other for illegal use of hands. In Blue Ash, Ohio, a 79-year-old father was charged with felonious assault for shooting his adult son because he wouldn't stop playing a guitar. Now, I certainly don't advocate violence against your offspring, but the guy was playing a Nick Jonas guitar solo. Oh, some sad news from Puerto Rico. 113-year-old Don Emilio Flores Marquez, who was recognized as the world's oldest man, has passed away. Now, I'm generally not superstitious, but I'm getting the feeling that title may be a little cursed. You know, if you live to 113, you should really make up some fake reason for how you've been able to live that long just to mess with people. Like, I eat sugar-coated pine cones every single day. Lastly, in Minnesota, a 35-year-old woman was arrested for pleasing herself in a stolen car. When cops told her she had a right to an attorney, she said, "No thanks, I'll get myself off." On tonight's show, we've got part 2 of my interview with Philip Barantini. Now, we've been watching Philip on the big screen for roughly 20 years now in shows such as Band of Brothers, Dream Team, and most recently Chernobyl. He's made the transition into directing, and his second feature film, Boiling Point, is lighting up the festival circuit, and it's getting rave reviews. Here to finish this chat with us about his acting and directing careers, as well as his great new film, Boiling Point, is Philip Barantini. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. So you have all these experiences as a chef and acting and being successful at both. And now you've moved into directing. After the career you've had so far, was there a defining moment or tipping point where the page turned and you said, I'm now going to devote myself to directing?
Yeah. And it wasn't, a nice one. It was the passing of my mum. She passed away 5 years ago. And like I said before, I've been sober 6 years now. So I'd been sober for 1 year. And I was still working in kitchens. And my mum passed away quite suddenly. It was an accident. It was a bit of a, not a bit of a shock. It was a complete shock for everybody. And that, a lot of my family and friends thought that I was going to go off the rails and completely go, crazy, back on the booze, whatever. But I didn't. I went the opposite way, and I would call myself quite a spiritual person. I'm not. I don't. I was brought up Catholic. I don't really follow religion as such, but I am very spiritual, and I feel energy, and I certainly felt my mum's. I feel my mum's energy every day. Like, it's crazy, and it just put everything into perspective.
When you think of directors who you look up to, who do you think of?
I look up to directors like Shane Meadows, who's a British director. This is England. Those shows, incredible. Paul Greengrass is another one. I mean, obviously the usual suspects: Tarantino, Scorsese, massively Scorsese. You know, because I grew up with Scorsese watching his movies. Spielberg, again, the same.
Now, having come from acting and not, like you said, going to, school to become a director, do you have a different level of respect for people who've kind of taken that path? Do you think that there's maybe something different that they bring to the table than the people who were quote unquote formally trained?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. It's funny because when I decided I wanted to direct, the first thing I did was call um, a good friend of mine. He was also in Band of Brothers, Bart Respoli, who's the producer of Boiling Point and Villain as well. We're very, very, very close friends. I called him, and he's been producing for many years. I think he did a few acting jobs after Band of Brothers, but then he went into producing. And I called him and said, "Look, I want to direct. This is what I want to do. I want to try. I want to give it a shot. Like, what do you recommend? Should I go to film school? And do you know any good film schools I should go to? I want to get it right, And he was like, "How long have you been acting?" I was like, "Well, over 20 years." He was like, "You've been to film school. You've done the film school. Every set you've been on has been a film school." He said, "You can't teach that." He said, "You know how it works, right? You know about where to put actors, the marks, and about different camera lenses." And I was like, "Yeah, I do know. I know all of that. Yeah, no, And he's like, "Well, you don't need to go to film school." He said, "And what's good about it is you've come from an acting background, so I understand actors, and I can relate to actors and also how to approach them as well, because every actor is different as well, and everyone has a different technique how they work. So you've got to sort of adapt to that. And I've worked with some really bad directors. I didn't realize they were at the time. But looking back, you're like, wow, how did you get away with that? So yeah, I mean, I guess it's just two different. Don't get me wrong. There's directors who go to film school and they come out and they're amazing and they can, But it is. I don't think they could teach you what I've learned as an actor, being on that side of it, and how to approach actors, and that's a big, big thing for me. I would call myself an actor's director, because I like to collaborate with my team about, Matt Lewis, who's been the cinematographer on everything I've done. Him and I have got this shorthand together now where he knows what I like. I go, I just wanted that with a bit of, and I'll just give him these crazy words, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, I know what you mean, yeah." And then he'll show me the shot, and I'll be like, "Oh, perfect. That's exactly what I was looking at."
So let's chat a little bit more about your film Boiling Point, which is
Sure.
getting a lot of buzz and positive press for the performances, directing, and cinematography. Where did the story for this come from? I understand it had some basis on your background in the restaurant business. Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, as I said earlier, I was when I was in that world of hospitality and chefing, I witnessed so many highs and lows, and I've seen a lot of stuff and witnessed a lot of stuff. So I had always thought to myself, God, this world is so rich to explore as a medium, whether it be film or TV or whatever. I know it's been done before. I've watched many films set in that world, and TV shows, especially over here in the UK. But most of them have been either comedy, which is great, fine. There's a lot of funny stuff that happens in that world, or they haven't quite hit the mark in terms of like the realism for me.
Or attempts at reality shows that,
Yeah,
is it really, how
exactly,
much of it's really reality show?
exactly. So I'd always thought, what, if I was going to get into directing, they say, and also writing as well, they say, write about what you know. So I just thought, I'm going to write a little short film about this world and I brought on James Cummings, who is now my writing partner on many things that we're doing together.
And this was done in one take,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
I-
So and the feature was done in one take as well. So the next person I wanted to speak to was Matt Lewis, the cinematographer, and say, look, this is how I want it to look. I want it to be quite erratic and fast paced, and overlapping dialogue, and slightly improvised. And so we talked about various different ideas, and he was just like, "What about trying to do it in one shot?" I was like, "Whoa, okay, that's crazy." And then the more I thought about it, I was like, "Okay, yeah." So in the short, we basically just followed Stephen Graham's character, the head chef, for the whole 20 minutes. We never. So the rule was we weren't allowed to leave him. So the camera has to follow him everywhere he goes. And it worked great. The film, the short was great. It was nominated for a BIFFA award over here, and it won a couple of awards. I won Best Director in a film festival over here and stuff. And it was, the traction was amazing. So I'd always sort of had the idea of maybe doing something slightly longer, a longer form movie and that set in that world, but I hadn't really thought about how we could do it. And off the success of the short, I was like, okay, maybe we can do the short 20 minutes could be the opening sequence for the feature, and then we can go into his recovery and his basically like me, and going down that road. And I literally sat up in bed one night and sort of thought, if we could do the feature in one take, but not just follow Stephen's character, follow various different other characters as well, and show sort of pockets of little vignettes of life, and in an hour and a half, then and it was really exciting me. So I got on the phone with James, the writer, and I was like, this is the idea I've had, what do you think? And he was like, he got excited. Then I called Stephen Graham. I said, do you fancy doing this? We're going to expand the short into a feature. We're going to do it all in one take. He's like, you are absolutely crazy, but yes, I'm so excited. And then obviously the person I had to get on board was Matt Lewis, the cinematographer. I said, how do you feel about doing it? Another one take thing, but 90 minutes worth. And then we talked about maybe him, maybe passing the camera off to another camera operator, and that they carry it on. And so he doesn't have to carry the camera for 90 minutes. And then he sort of said to me, look, if we're going to do this, I'm going to do it all. We found the location for the feature, which is a good friend of mine's restaurant in London. He let us have the restaurant for 4 weeks, where we could rehearse for 3 weeks. And then we shot it for, it was originally supposed to be 4 nights, where we'd do it twice per night in its entirety. So we'd shoot for an hour and a half, have a break for 3 hours, shoot again. So we gave ourselves 8 goes at it. But because of COVID, we had to shut down 2 days early. And so we had 4 shots at it. And
now, was the restaurant available because of COVID?
No. COVID was just whisperings at that point.
Wow.
It wasn't. There was no lockdown. The lockdown happened like 4 days after we wrapped. We shut down early.
Philip, we got to go to a quick commercial break. Pay the bills. Can you stick around till after the break?
Absolutely, I'd love to. Yeah.
Just slice 3 steaks. It's not hard.
Why do you always give in to her, my man?
What do you mean give in to her?
Was there, I know you said there was some improvisation. Was there a particular storyline, or did you have to adapt the storyline in order to wrap, or?
The rehearsal process was really complex, because we did have a script. We had a script, a solid script, but there was no specific dialogue in the script. There was bullet points. The way we wrote it was bullet points in terms of what needed to be said at what point. So then the way we rehearsed it was, I would get all the actors in place, in positions where they would be. And we called it scene 1, and we numbered the scenes, but there was no actual scenes.
Let's chat about Stephen for a second.
Right.
What a performance in this role. He seems like such an inspired choice for the lead. Did you picture him in the role when you were kind of developing those bullet points, when you were putting this thing together?
Stephen and I have been close friends for 20 years. We were in Band of Brothers together. Again, going back to that, that's the friendship that we've all become. So when I was directing my very first short film, the one about the young boxer called Seconds Out, which is on YouTube, I wanted Stephen to play a small part in that. So I called him up and said, look, I'm doing my first short. I'd love you to be in it. Would you be in it? And he was like, looking back, I really respect him for this, but he basically said, let's get the first one out the way. Let's see how you get on. And if you're any good, then maybe we can talk. But looking back, I was like, okay, I totally understand why you did that. And so I showed him the first short once it was completed. And he absolutely loved it. And he was like, right, when are you looking to do it? I said, well, we're looking to do it, as soon as we get that person on board. But pretty soon, I think it was September, and we wanted to basically shoot it in as soon as possible, really. And he said, okay, well, I could probably give you a few days in December. I was like, what? He said, yeah, man, I would love to do this if you'll have me. If you'll have me, I'll do it. I was like, if we'll have you.
You're like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. And so
did he have restaurant industry background himself to draw from? So
absolutely not. No.
So is he the type of person who prepares for months and months, or is he so talented that he can just walk in, show up the day, and just nail it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much. We did have some training. We had some chef training for the chefs, but it was only a few days. He literally, he just goes all in on his roles. He will do as much research as he can, but because he's so busy, he's working back to back. He didn't have much time to do this. But so we had a couple of real chefs on set, sort of consulting and showing him different ways on how he could look like a chef.
Yeah.
Chefs move in a certain way, and they hold things in a certain way, other than, like a knife, for example, or even a spoon. Chefs hold spoons different ways. They articulate with their hands a lot. So it was getting those sort of nuances down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your first two feature films, Villain and Boiling Point, on the outside looking in, are two very different films with very different subjects. Do you see any commonalities, though, in your work so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's people have asked me, what is your style? What is your kind of movies? And the truth is, I don't really have a particular genre that I like to go for. I just like, ultimately it comes down to character and and the performances, really. And it's real, the nuances in characters as well in scripts. When I'm reading scripts now, it's got to be about that central character, and not just the central character. Everybody around has to feel real, and that's sort of what I brought to Villain, and everything I've done so far is, I like to sort of let the actors play a little bit, and the script is written, and I respect the script writers, but I will always say to the script writers, look, if something comes up on the day, I want the actors to feel completely open. And what I will tend to do is, we will do a couple of takes what's on the script, but then the last take, maybe 2 takes, where it's like, right, go for your life, do what you want, as long as it's in the same vicinity of what's going on and we're not going off on a tangent. You're not doing a Shakespearean monologue for 2 hours. Then let's just see what happens. But I think, yeah, it's all about character. It's got to be character driven, and that could be set anywhere. It could be set on the moon, it could be set in 1,000 years in the future, whatever. It doesn't matter. For me, it's just got to be real within that world.
So now that you've sat firmly in the director's seat, do you have any specific themes or subject matter that you want to explore in your work in the future?
Mental health is a big thing for me, because, again, and it goes back to me talking about, the nuances in characters and really the vulnerability in these characters. And I think that's really important for me. I'm being sent a lot of scripts. I signed with a big agent over in Los Angeles, a few months ago, and they're sending me a lot of scripts, and I'm reading a lot of things, and some of them are like, wow, this is incredible, but I just don't feel like it's my vibe. I just don't know what I would bring. I think another director will bring something completely different to that, and I think so. I'm learning to be able to say no to things, and and also just have my own sort of. I'm developing a style, I guess.
You've spoke glowingly of the role that music in film plays, and specifically composers. How does music play into your filmmaking process?
Well, it's huge for me because I'm a big music fan. I love music, and I've listened to music since I was, I've listened to music, not just to listen to music, but I've always, whenever looking back as a child, even like I'd have headphones in or whatever, and I'd be staring out of a window, and I'd pretend I'm in a movie, like no matter what the like. I remember being on a skiing holiday once, and I was listening to Guns N' Roses, and just like skiing down the mountain as fast as I could, and I was just like, I'm in a movie. I'm in this movie.
Yeah, I think the ultimate would be the Bond theme song. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I tried to do that now, I'd probably break my legs. But yeah, back then when I was younger, I had no fear. But yeah, it's a huge thing for me. And actually, funny enough, there's no music in Boiling Point. And we did try to put some music in there, but because of the one take thing, it almost took away from the tension. And that's what I wanted to create in that movie is the tension. So, my composers who I worked with on Villain and also the shorts I did, David and Aaron, they are just amazing at what they do. And so they sent me some samples, to the picture, and I was like, it's beautiful what you've done. The music is beautiful, but it's just taking something away for some reason. For the first time, it didn't gel.
So where can our audience catch Boiling Point right now? Is there streaming or buying or on the big screen or otherwise?
Yeah, so it's due for release in the United States on the 19th of November. And it'll be in a small, I believe it's a small release in cinemas, in theaters, initially, and then it will go straight onto streaming platforms. I think maybe a couple of weeks or a week after that, and then so it'll be on all the streaming platforms over there, and I guess it'll be on Netflix at some point. It's definitely going to be on Netflix in the UK at some point, I believe. But yeah, it's 19th of November is when it's released.
Philip, thank you so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed our chat. Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Barantini.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. A special thanks to Philip Barantini for joining us again. If you're a fan of the band Black Crowes, be sure to tune in next week because we're going to have legendary guitarist Mark Ford on the show with us. Stay safe, everyone.